This video is going to be talking about the importance of the left side mirror, when you would use it and the sort of things you're looking for to keep you a safe driver. Meet Bob. Bob stands for Boys on Bikes, and this is the typical type of vehicle that you could have pass you on the left-hand side. On a driving test, the examiner will observe to see that you're checking your mirrors well before, signalling, changing direction and changing speed. The key words are well before, as just before, at the same time or not at all will not allow you to plan on what you see. If something happened due to lack of mirrors, you could fail your test, and repeatedly not looking at them without anything happening at the time also could result in a fail. To keep you and all other road users safe, the mirrors should be used. And Bob will be able to help you out loads. You need to check him well before. So Bob needs to be used anytime you need to move to the left. It needs to be checked in good time. Now, there's no point in looking in it and not taking note or acting on what you see. If you checked the mirror before you left your home tomorrow and spotted toothpaste splat across your face, you wouldn't say, "Oh, look, toothpaste," and then leave it and then head on out. You would look and say, "Oh, look, there's toothpaste," and then you'd wipe it away. Well, at least I'd hope you would. This means you looked in the mirror, saw what was there, and acted on what you saw. Now, in a car, you need to be checking Bob before you need to carry out what you have to do, so that you can see if anyone is beside you, because if there is, you can make a safe plan. Places where you would need your Bob mirror is preparing to take a left turn and before you make the turn, when you're looking to leave a roundabout, after overtaking something to make sure it was safe to return, you need to change lanes, you're trying to move to the left to avoid something in the road, like a pothole or debris. You generally just need to move your position towards the left when you move off from the side of the road or in queues. Main interior mirrors should be used first and then Bob. So basically, you pair the mirrors. Whenever you use the mirrors, they should be well before so that you can act on what you see to take safe action. Let's talk about turning left. When you're preparing to take a left turn, you'll need to signal and take up the position if you're not already to the left. Bob would need to be checked for that. If you saw a cyclist or a motorcyclist or an e-scooter, for example, coming along beside you on the left, you would think about once you start slowing down to prepare to turn that the vehicle may now start to come up the inside. It's better to know they're there now so you have time to plan. Last thing you would want to do is turn when they're beside you, as that could obviously cause a collision. So checking Bob while preparing for the turn and before you make the turn. If you saw a cyclist coming up the inside, you can hang back while they pass you on the left and then make the turn once they've passed. Some cyclists may have never driven a car before and they've got no idea about how unsafe it is to pass a car on the left. Lots of large vehicles like lorries even have stickers on the back of their lorries with a picture of a bike saying, "If you can't see me, then I can't see you." But yet cyclists still put themselves at risk by cycling up the side of a large vehicle. E-scooters and mopeds can travel faster than cyclists and they can shoot up the inside quickly, so regularly checking Bob will allow you to spot them. Food delivery riders weave up the left and right sides of vehicles with no thought about the danger they put themselves in, so you need to keep a lookout for them. Look at this guy here in the queue behind me. He passes on my right between two lanes of traffic. Because I was checking my mirrors regularly, I'd already spotted him back in the queue. I kept regularly checking because I know that he's most probably going to start to come up either on my left or my right. Watch him make his move. So he passes on my right but turns left the same as me. Now watch as he appears on my right hand side. Now if I wasn't checking my mirrors regularly, I'd get a shock when I see him turn up there. He goes ahead at this roundabout and then at the third roundabout goes up the inside of the cars that are queuing. If the car he's passing on the left is so busy looking for a gap to go at the roundabout and doesn't keep an eye on Bob, they could easily move to the left at the roundabout and hit him. When turning to the left, if you keep to the left, you can hopefully restrict them so that they can't pass on the left, which will keep them safe. Let's move on to big roundabouts. You should always check Bob before leaving at your exit to make sure that it's safe to leave. Some roundabouts may have asked you to approach only in the right-hand lane to follow the road ahead, and the left lane only to be used if you're turning left. Many a time I've approached correctly in this scenario, but somebody beside me on the left hasn't read the sign or the road markings telling them that the left lane is only for turning left. And then mid-roundabout I can see that they're beside me and stopping me from being able to leave the roundabout. Keeping an eye on Bob allows me to spot them, and then I'm able to ease off to avoid a collision. Now, turning right at a roundabout when you're in the right-hand lane on the approach to the roundabout and then using the right-hand lane on the roundabout can often catch learner drivers out. When you get to the point when you have to signal left to leave the roundabout, then this is where you can sometimes have problems, as if there's a vehicle beside you, then you may not be able to move over to the left to leave. Here's a few tips for you, as well as advising you how to use Bob on the roundabout. When approaching a roundabout where you're wanting to turn right, keep an eye on the vehicles approaching the roundabout in the lane to your left. Some may be intending to turn right from that lane when they're not supposed to, and they may already have a signal onto the right which will give you a heads up that they're going to go in the same direction as you. Some may be in the lane to your left, not even have a signal onto the right, but start to put it on when they move on to the roundabout. If you see either of these two, then you need to keep an eye on them travelling beside you, or if they're slightly behind you, you can keep an eye on them in Bob. If you see them doing this, you can already start to make your plan, because once you get to the point where you need to change your signal to the left and move over to the left lane to leave the roundabout, you'll know that you can't do that while they're beside you. I will come back to the plan of action in a moment. Sometimes they won't have the signal on while on the approach or even while they're joining the roundabout, but still intend to turn right at the roundabout and will possibly stop you moving over to the left to leave the roundabout. If you're watching for all of these things regularly in Bob, then you can plan your exit. If they're slow and you can safely keep your speed up and you can see in Bob that you're well in front of them, then you can move over. If you see them moving fairly quickly up the inside, then you can make a plan to slightly reduce your speed to move over behind them once they've passed. If you see them beside you and you can't do either of these, but you know there are two lanes when you leave the roundabout, you can make the plan to leave in the right-hand lane initially and then keep checking Bob to see when it's safe to move back to the left lane. Worst case scenario, if by checking Bob and you can see that it isn't safe to carry out any of these options, then you'll need to go all the way around the roundabout and attempt it again. Now, the point I'm making is that if you're not checking Bob, you won't be able to make a plan. And I've seen many a near-on collision with cars that are trying to leave the roundabout, obviously haven't checked their mirrors, and if they did, then they shouldn't have moved over to the left as a car was beside them. Yes, it may be poor driving from the person using the wrong lane and restricting the car trying to move over, but Bob would have told them and it wasn't safe. So make sure you let Bob help you on the roundabouts. Let's talk about passing obstructions or overtaking things that are moving. When you're passing something, whether it's stationary or moving, you should check Bob before moving back. You need to make sure you're completely past it before moving back so that you don't hit it. If a parked car hadn't checked its blind spot before moving off, it might start trying to move off while you're just beside it and intending to pull back in. Yes, they'd be a poor driver for pulling off while you're still beside them, but if they were moving off, checking Bob would tell you that they were moving off and that it was not safe to move back to the left. When changing lanes, Bob can really help you. If you're travelling in a form of one-way system, whether a one-way street, approaching a roundabout or traffic lights, or even on a motorway or dual carriageway, you should keep a close eye on your side mirrors. If you need to move to a lane on your left, keep checking Bob until you know it's safe to move over. If Bob tells you there are a lot of people in the lane on your left and you're going to struggle to move over, you can then choose to signal to ask to be let over. Let's talk about avoiding something in the road. Potholes are just the norm now. You can rarely take a short journey and not encounter one. Hitting one could damage your car and cost you lots of money. Now, reading the road well ahead can hopefully help you spot these, allow you to check bob if you need to move to the left to avoid them. The last thing you want to do is spot them late and swerve to the left to avoid them and take a cyclist out in the process. Now, good mirror checking regularly will keep you aware of exactly what's going on behind you, so that you'll know if a cyclist, for example, is following you. The same thing if something was in the road, like a piece of wood that may have a nail in it. Spotting it early and using the mirrors accordingly, you can safely avoid it. You may have to change your position in the road to the left, say for example if the vehicle in front was waiting in the road to turn right. By moving to the left, you could legally pass on their left. Bob would tell you if it was safe to move back to the left. If you saw a car waiting to turn right, the sooner you checked bob, the sooner you could move back to the left. So moving off in queues is a very important one. I always get my students to take a 5-point check before moving off from the side of the road. And one of those points is the bob mirror. It can spot people on the pavement next to you, somebody about to pull off their drive, for example, that could stop you from moving off. But every time you're in the flow of traffic and you need to move off, this could be just in a general queue due to congestion, a queue to the roundabout or the traffic lights, you should carry out a check of all 3 mirrors before moving off to make sure that it's safe. In queues, this is where cyclists, e-scooters and motorcycles will make their way up the queue, whether it's on the left or the right, and you must make sure they are not beside you when you go to move off. On the video at the beginning, we showed you the delivery rider on a moped moving up the left-hand side of the cars in the left-hand lane approaching the mini roundabout. That is an accident waiting to happen, so the 3 mirror check in queues is vital. If you take a look at this video, further back up the road, the cyclist was on the path passing queuing traffic. Further along, the road divided into 2 lanes to approach a roundabout. We were in the right lane, which was going ahead, and the left lane was for turning left only. Once the road divided into 2 lanes, the cyclist came off the pavement and approached the roundabout in the left lane and went ahead. I had already warned my student while he was on the pavement to keep watching, as I was 99% sure that he was going to come off the pavement and rejoin the road and possibly go ahead at the roundabout, which he did. Further along, we caught him up, and when we did, you can see here where he then passed all the vehicles that were slowing down to eventually a stop on the left-hand side. A few years back, I was the 3rd in the queue at a traffic light controlled pedestrian crossing. The lights then went to green, I checked my mirrors, and in bob I saw a cyclist starting to pass me on the left. It was the smallest of gaps, but he was going for it. I obviously didn't move as it wasn't safe, and I let him pass, but the car in front didn't check, as if he did and knew it wasn't safe, he would have stayed still. He moved off while the cyclist was beside him, and as he moved off, he slightly moved the position of his car to the left. Although the cyclist was slow, he was pedalling. The gap between the car in front and the curb got smaller, and the cyclist was left with the smallest gap. He clipped the curb, lost his balance. He literally did almost a full somersault on his bike. He wasn't hurt, or not physically, as he got back onto his bike straight away and rode off, but I expect his pride was with everyone seeing him come off his bike. Was he sensible to move up on the left side in such a small space? Not really, but the car in front of me wasn't sensible moving off without checking bob before he moved. The incident could have been avoided. Being a learner driver in this day and age is so much harder than it ever was years ago. You have so much more to look out for, but you need to be well aware of all the dangers so that you can keep you and everyone else safe. So let Bob be your mate and keep you a safe driver. If you found this video helpful, give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more driving videos.